I don't know if this is real. Weber said that over the past couple of days, UFO sightings has been staged around the country. However, this is the first one in Johannesburg in South Africa.
UFOs and flying saucers were a myth for a long time, but residents in Aurora had the shock of their lives when a real one flew over them one early morning. On April 17th, 1897, a silver, cigar-shaped airship suddenly appeared in the sky, crashing into a windmill and instantly exposed. Experts and media quickly covered this case, finding a strange pilot in the cockpit and a series of revelations that would change the lives of the people in this town forever.
And tonight, KVU's Bob Buckaloo shares the strange tale of what some believe to have been the crash landing of a UFO in the farmlands of North Texas.
Aurora is situated on a gentle rise in southeastern Wise County, about 10 miles southeast of Decatur, Texas. Surrounded by live oaks and mesquite scrub, this small trading town, established in the late 1850s, once bustled. By the mid-1880s, Aurora boasted 2 schools, 2 cotton gins, 2 hotels, and about 15 businesses. Yet by 1897, the town began to wane. A terrifying outbreak of spotted fever in 1888 and 1889 triggered mass departures, and the arrival of the railroad in nearby Rome, 2 years later, sealed Aurora's fate. Many residents left, and hopes of economic revival faded. Despite its economic decline and near ghost town status, Aurora, at dawn on April 17th, 1897, would experience an extraterrestrial event beyond any faded prosperity, and this will etch the town forever into history. This was the UFO crash that happened right in Aurora, Colorado. Before the sun rose fully on that fateful day, the sleepy town of Aurora stirred with an uncanny tension. Judge J.S. Proctor, whose property bordered the town's small square, woke up early as he usually did. But he had no idea that his daily habit would cause him to witness something impossible. He looked up from the window and saw a gleaming, cigar-shaped craft drifting low across the horizon, moving due north and looking nothing like a man-made craft. The airship seemed to be damaged, with its machinery faltering. Yet it looked like it was out of this world, with no exhaust, smoke, or propulsion moving it forward. It silently descended, and the morning air was heavy with anticipation until it collided violently with the tower of Judge Proctor's windmill. After a thunderous crack, the structure collapsed instantly. This led to a massive explosion that hurled strange, non-human debris across several acres. It also shredded the water tank and obliterated the judge's ornamental garden in a single instant. As smoke went into the dawn sky, experts and media services tried to get to the scene before the residents did so, but they weren't fast enough. Residents had already realized that a UFO crash happened in Aurora. Aurora's early risers gathered, coughing and wide-eyed. They discovered that the wreckage had twisted metal that was very strange and weighty, not like something made by humans. It was a mysterious alloy resembling aluminum and silver. But when they started to sort out the debris, they didn't expect to see something shocking among the ruins. There was a human-like being in the front, yet it was horribly disfigured, so they weren't sure what it was. Although it looked like a person, the townsfolk revealed that the being in the craft was not an inhabitant of this world. As this was over a century ago, there wasn't a lot known about UFOs and aliens, and the government couldn't fully investigate. The townspeople tried their best to understand the debris and where the person came from, especially since it was definitely not a human craft, but they couldn't. But they were all shocked, and the entire world found itself on edge when an official revealed something even more interesting. Mr. T.J. Weems, an astronomy-savvy officer with the US Signal Service based nearby Fort Worth, had declared that the pilot was not from Earth. He declared that the pilot was from Mars instead. In the debris, some strange papers were found near the pilot, which was suspected to be records of his travels. But the words on the papers were inscribed in strange, indecipherable hieroglyphics. That day With the wreckage and hushed amazement, a funeral was arranged. Although no one knew where the being came from, they couldn't just leave it in the debris, and so they buried it in the Aurora cemetery with Christian rites. The story that a UFO crash happened in Aurora, Colorado, eventually reached the ears of locals in nearby towns. The Dallas Morning News, under the byline S.E. Hayden, published a brief yet extraordinary and eye-catching column with the headlines, "A windmill demolishes it." The article explored everything that had happened, from how the craft appeared in the sky from space and exploded, wrecked the windmill and garden, the eerie alloy it was made of, and the mysterious pilot that was found inside. Later, it was realized that this incident wasn't a one-time thing. It happened with other airship sightings that occurred in 1896 and 1897. This was an era when newspapers had a lot of reports and articles about phantom airships. But there was something different about Aurora's event, because this was the only time the UFO had actually crashed, leaving a deceased pilot and debris. After a couple of decades, it seemed like everyone had forgotten about what had happened in 1897, but it was uncovered again in the 1970s when an aviation writer named Bill Case visited Aurora. He was on assignment for the Dallas Times-Herald when he remembered the legend of the UFO crash that happened in Aurora. So, he went to the Aurora cemetery and found the grave, etched with odd symbols, and suspected that it would hold artifacts more interesting than just a coin or locket. He used a metal detector to assess the grave, trying to find out what was underneath, and it suddenly beeped. He knelt by the grave market, which had a top with a V shape, dotted with 3 curious circles like portholes. There were 3 metal fragments that were beneath the soil, and this was a kind of alloy that was gleaming, clearly out of this world. Later, they would realize that although it resembled aluminum, it wasn't of Earth, according to 19th century science. Remember that before 1905, aluminum was very rare and more precious than gold. So this was a shocking discovery. But he could barely investigate what had happened because when he got back later, the grave was empty and the market had vanished. In its place, a simple pipe was driven into the earth, and his detector couldn't find anything anymore. It seemed like there was something else at play, and this could only be described as a cover-up. Because of the attention that Bill Case had drawn to the UFO crash that happened in Aurora, many other UFO enthusiasts swarmed to the city. MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, dispatched crews to probe the site. They dug and dug but didn't find anything. But when they talked to some of the neighbours, they met Mary Evans, who was aged 90-something, remembered that her parents once told her about the wreck. Her parents had witnessed it firsthand, and it was a story she grew up hearing. Another witness they discovered was Charlie Stevens, who was a boy at that time, and he described the smoking craft flying in the sky before it crashed and exploded. His father then rode into town to see the wreckage with his own eyes. Yet many people were still skeptical about this UFO crash in Arizona. In a 1980 Time magazine, a 86-year-old Etta Peggis told a grimmer origin story. According to her, reporter S.E. Hayden came up with the entire saga as a tongue-in-cheek hoax, and it was a publicity stunt to revive their dying town. Still, there's no doubt that there are some truths to this tale from over a century ago. Although there are some parts of the story that are debated, like some say Judge Proctor had a water pump tower and not a windmill. But that doesn't change the fact that a UFO crash happened in Aurora, was witnessed by many and still recorded in the newspaper. What's more, Aurora's UFO crash was just one act in America's great mystery airship. Across the country, many people saw strange crafts in the sky, like glowing lights or tangible bodies with propellers. Some claimed that they saw humanoid pilots, and others insisted that they were hunted by the press. Through all the retellings, Aurora thrived in legend. TV documentaries like UFO Files and films such as the Aurora encounter in 1986 dramatized Aurora's claim to fame, sometimes as metaphor, sometimes as confirmation. Books like Jim Marr's Alien Agenda and countless articles embraced or explored the mystery, treating it as cultural DNA. But there are still a lot of questions. Was there really an alien pilot buried under that patch of soil? Did the residents in the town remove the evidence, or was it taken away by other aliens? Interestingly, the UFO crash that happened in Aurora, Colorado, wasn't the first of its kind, because years later, in 2015, a shocking accident would occur in South Africa, a similarly shaped UFO crashing again. This takes us hundreds of thousands of miles away in South Africa, where its residents found themselves shocked as a UFO crash happened, like the one in Aurora. It was a hot morning in Johannesburg on December 1st, 2015, when Sandton commuters looked up and couldn't believe what they saw. At the corner of William Nicol Drive and Sandton Drive, there was a crashed cigar-shaped spacecraft. Covered in smoke and guarded by people in hazmat suits, it was a headlining event. Many people whipped out their phones, snapping, tweeting under the hashtag number UFOSA. That brought up the question, had something alien really landed here? With adrenaline crackling through the air, the South Africans were feeling a combination of fear and fascination. Eyewitnesses shared what they saw. A cigar-shaped UFO which was descending unsteadily before it suddenly crashed in the streets. There were a lot of theories on social media showing the difference between a UFO crash in 2015 and one in 1897. From a government operation to a bona fide extraterrestrial arrival, it seemed like something interesting had just happened. Surprisingly, this caused many to remember the UFO crash that happened in Aurora, Colorado, because they had the same shapes. They had also crashed in front of anyone, with a lot of witnesses and media attention. But just like the crash that happened in Aurora, some also thought that it was a hoax, despite the eyewitnesses. UFO enthusiasts and those who believed that there was a crash immediately believed that it was a government cover-up. Whenever a credible UFO sighting happens, like the UFO crash, the government or related bodies usually say that it was something else, like a trick of the light, satellite, drones, etc. This has brought a lot of ideas that it could really be a cover-up to stop people from paying attention. In the case of the UFO crash that happened in South Africa, Amber Adam Weber stepped out to claim that it was all a hoax and wasn't actually real. Instead, she said that it was a national brand activation campaign. The crash craft in Sandton was merely the final landing of a staged UFO sighting tour across South Africa, preceded by strange lights in Cape Town over the weekend, then Durban's Boulevard the night before, drawing attention to a new smart drink launching from Clover and Future Life. Although many people found it hard to believe it, Metro Police and local media confirmed it, saying that it was not a real UFO crash. That morning's rush, the hazmat-clad extras, the stage smoke, all orchestrated to cause heads to turn and imaginations to spin. Commuters found themselves handed samples of the new product hidden inside the mock spaceship, a clever twist in the Discover the Future narrative. With the UFO crash that happened in South Africa, there are two sides of the story. Some say that this was actually a crash and the government is trying to cover it up. Others say that it's just a hoax and a PR strategy. Still, UFO crashes remain very mysterious among many, and there are always ideas that they are fake. Even in Aurora today, the town lives in two words. There's one foot in the dusty legend and another in everyday life. A historical market pays a fleeting respect to Ned, who is called the town's loved alien. Many UFO enthusiasts go to the cemetery, searching for proof and storytelling treasures. We'll probably never know if this alien hailed from Mars or from another place, but it was definitely from outer space. But the UFO crash that happened in Aurora isn't an event that happened only once. In other places, in the USA and around the world, we've seen stories of UFO crashes, some of which have been immediately covered up by the government. The US government is pretty good at covering up stories of UFOs, like with the Kecksburg UFO incident. On December 9th, 1965, thousands across multiple states in the US and parts of Canada saw a fireball streak through the sky. It was followed by reports of an acorn-shaped object crashing in the woods near Kecksburg. Witnesses saw strange hieroglyphic-like markings, and the military soon closed off the area, not allowing anyone pass through there. That made it obvious that an alien craft had already crashed there. While NASA later suggested it could be Soviet satellite debris, the lack of physical evidence and continuing secrecy have fueled speculation of a government cover-up. A few years before that, in New Mexico, USA, there was another shocking UFO crash. This occurred in 1948, when some claimed that they saw a UFO shaped like a saucer crashing through the sky before it eventually landed. Although this was later called a hoax, many UFO enthusiasts revived the tale. In that same year in Kentucky, USA, Captain Thomas Mantell passed away after chasing a UFO in a fighter jet. While chasing after the UFO, he climbed to over 22,000 feet before losing consciousness due to the lack of oxygen and crashed. This is one of the early cases of a human tragedy caused by a UFO pursuit. Pretty shocking, right? Even outside the USA, other countries have experienced some shocking UFO crashes, although there have been some with missing pieces. In Nova Scotia, Canada, on October 4, 1967, residents and the RCMP observed a glowing object crash into the waters near Shag Harbour. Despite an official response involving the RCMP, Coast Guard and Navy, no debris, aircraft or survivors were ever found. The incident remains one of Canada's most compelling UFO mysteries. Meanwhile, in 1980, at Suffolk in the UK, the Rendlesham Forest incident suddenly occurred. Often dubbed Britain's Roswell, this case saw multiple US Air Force personnel witness strange lights and metallic objects in Rendlesham Forest near RAF bases. Some claim to have even touched an alien structure. The military initially dismissed explanations, but leaked documents and eyewitness testimonies continue to spark intrigue and debate. And then, in 1968 in Russia, there was the Height 611 incident that many people still remember today. On January 29, 1986, an apparent spherical object crashed near Dalnogorsk in Siberia. Described as a reddish, perfectly round sphere, witnesses noted it flew silently along the ground before impact. The story circulated among UFO communities and was even featured in the media, earning the nickname Roswell of the Soviet Union. These cases span the globe and decades, but what ties them together is how they have shaped public fascination with a blend of compelling witness testimony, official ambiguity, and the enduring question of whether we're alone. Physical evidence in most cases remains elusive, yet the stories persist, fueled by curiosity, skepticism, and the human yearning for the mysterious. Although there have been a lot of cases of UFO crashes, like the one that happened in Aurora, Colorado, there's always the rumor of a government denial and cover-up. After Bill Case revealed all that he discovered in the makeshift headstone, only for the market and signals to vanish thereafter, there began a long path of government denial and cover-up. Interestingly, it was once reported that the International UFO Bureau wanted to exhume the body of the so-called alien and find out what was beneath it, yet there was no result, as the cemetery board refused. It seemed like there was something behind this, which didn't want the world to find out that there was actually an alien. Skeptics argue that the entire tale was a fabrication from the start. One prominent voice, 86-year-old town resident Etta Pegues, told Time magazine in 1979 that the story was invented as a joke by reporter S.E. Hayden, designed to attract attention to a dying town bypassed by the railroad. This theory gained traction among researchers and historians who noted the unusual timing, published just before April Fool's Day, and the absence of any records surrounding the pilot's burial in official archives. Adding to the mystery is the blurred identity of the Signal Service Officer T.J. Weems, later revealed to have been the local blacksmith, not a trained astronomer, raising questions about the credibility of his statements. Local historians, such as Aurora's former mayor Barbara Brammer, have highlighted the town's fraught condition in the late 1890s. Crop failure, devastation from disease, and an economy on the brink of collapse. This backdrop offers a compelling motive for creating a sensational story to bring tourists and interest back to Aurora. But many say that all this so-called evidence is simply a way for the government to deny what had happened and cover it up. The UFO crash that happened in Aurora remains a source of debate and questions, with many enthusiasts believing that it's real, while those who believe in the government and its organisations say that it's just a hoax. What do you think about the UFO crash? Was it a hoax, or did it really happen? Let's know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.